In this next episode of our Promised Land series, we go to the location where the ultimate showdown between the prophets of Baal and a prophet of Israel occurred, only to discover the one true God of this land. When God called the children of Israel to leave slavery in Egypt and go to the land He promised them, it was for a very important purpose. According to Deuteronomy 12, God wanted them to destroy the false gods in this land and go to the place God chose for them to worship only Him. One of Israel's main purposes for coming to this land is to be a light to the nations, exemplifying the worship of the one true God of Israel. But Israel has never been perfect. And when Israel arrived here, this calling proved more challenging than it may have seemed. So, God raised up prophets among the people of Israel to help correct them and refocus them on their national purpose over and over again. Today, I invite you to join me as I explore a location where the prophets of Baal and a prophet of Israel had a powerful showdown, and where the outcome was clear. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the one who brought this people to the Promised Land, was the only God to be worshiped here. From the first pages of the Bible, the message is clear that God chose certain descendants of Abraham to help the world find their way back to God. An important part of this eternal covenant involved land. After Israel claimed their inheritance through Joshua and Jerusalem was conquered under King David, the temple to the one true God of Israel was built by David's son, King Solomon. But it wasn't long after the death of King Solomon that the kingdom of Israel became divided, and unrighteous kings led the children of Israel astray. To learn a bit more about how Israel became divided and struggled with the worship of other gods in the land, Isaac took me to a location that never ceases to send chills down my spine. We went to Mount Carmel, where through the prophet Elijah, God sent a clear message about who was to be worshipped in the Promised Land. Isaac, where are we standing right now? What region of Israel exactly?
So right now we're standing on top of Mount Carmel, northern part of Israel.
So the northern part, hence the northern kingdom, yes?
Exactly, yes.
Now talk to us a little bit about how the kingdom became divided into north and south initially.
Amazing story from the Bible. 925 BC, King Solomon died. After his death, his son Rehoboam wanted to be the next new king of Israel, but the people of Israel say to him, "Your father made our yoke heavy. We want you to make it a bit lighter." So he said to them, "Go back home and come back to me in 3 days." During this period of time, he went to talk with the old people from the time of his father. They advised him to make the yokes lighter. He rejected their advice. And then when he went to speak with his friends, the youngsters, they advised him to make the yokes heavier. So the Bible tells us how 3 days later, all of the Israelites gathered in Shechem. And over there, Rehoboam said to them the famous words. He told them, "My father made your yoke heavy? I will make it heavier. My father tortured you with whips. I will torture you with scorpions." Therefore, at that time, 10 and a half out of the 12 tribes rejected him. They made his enemy Jeroboam to be their king. So they established the northern kingdom, called the Kingdom of Israel, with King Jeroboam. On the other hand, half of Benjamin and Judah still stayed loyal to the house and the line of David. They made Rehoboam to be their king. They established the southern kingdom called Judah. So this is why the kingdom was split to the northern kingdom, where we are right now, Israel, and the southern kingdom, Judah.
Okay. Now, where we're standing here on Mount Carmel, what is this place known for? What do Jewish people know this place for? What main event happened here?
This place is associated with Prophet Elijah. 1 Kings chapter 18. Remember, even in Arabic, name of this place is Mukhraka. What is the meaning of the word Mukhraka? Mukhraka in translation to English means the place of fire. This is the place where the fire came and burnt the burnt offering of Prophet Elijah. By the way, since then, Prophet Elijah is associated in Jewish tradition with this mountain and other way around. This mountain is always associated with Prophet Elijah. So you say Mount Carmel, you say Elijah. You say Elijah, you associate Mount Carmel.
Okay, very good. Now there's someone else we can associate here. Talk to us about King Ahab and Jezebel. Who were they?
Oh, very bad people. Ahab, the worst king of Israel ever. He was the son of King Omri.
Right.
Jezebel, she was not an Israelite woman. She was the daughter of the king of Sidon. And remember that in Sidon, they practiced paganism. The two main false gods over there were Baal and Asherah. Now, in the mythology of those days, Baal, he was the god of the sky, the wind, the clouds, and the rain. His mother was the goddess Asherah. She was the goddess of the soil and earth. Now, when Ahab married Jezebel, she was the one who brought this idea of Baal and Asherah to this country. And Ahab actually decided to go with his wife. So he and his wife, they made the people of Israel to turn their back on the one and only God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, and to follow these false prophets of Baal and Asherah. Now, just to emphasize this point, you know, if we visit the ancient biblical city of Samaria, capital city of the kingdom of Israel, right in front of the palace of Ahab and Jezebel, we just found a temple, an altar built by them to these two false prophets, Baal and Asherah. Imagine to yourself.
Don't go away. When we come back, we talk about the Valley of Armageddon, its significance in the past and in the future.
Israel is facing one of its most difficult challenges, but with your help, First Century Foundations is making a difference on the ground by supporting local charities like the Joseph Project.
First Century Foundations has been thrilled to be able to help with humanitarian aid items for the warehouse here. But a few months into the war, all of your stocks were depleted. Talk to us about how important it was to get this place restocked.
There's a big request for food all the time. People are without a house, without work, and they need this supply, they need this help. So your donations are great help. It's helping the Joseph Project to keep purchasing these items and making sure it's going to the right people in the land of Israel.
And we just want to remind you at home that your donations matter.
Call today with your gift of $30 or more. 1-877-628-2800.
It is always so surprising to me that even after Israel received the law of Moses, entered the Promised Land, and built God's temple in Jerusalem, Israel still struggled so much to stay faithful to only the God of Israel. Their purpose and mission in coming to this land was to be a light to the nations, exemplifying the worship of the one true God, Yet this goal was so difficult in a land still full of idols and amidst nations that were loyal to other gods. But standing on Mount Carmel with Isaac, right where Elijah challenged the prophets of Baal in northern Israel, made me realize just how much Israel struggled to fulfill her destiny in the Promised Land.
Now, Isaac, were there a lot of bad, evil kings over Israel, or were they mostly righteous kings?
Unfortunately, option number one.
Ah.
Unfortunately, many of the kings of Israel were very bad kings.
Yeah.
We know about very few good ones, but many of them were sinners.
Okay. Now, you mentioned the discovery of the temples of Asherah and Baal over at Samaria in front of Ahab's palace. Were there any other archaeological discoveries proving that Baal was worshipped here in the northern kingdom?
Definitely, yes. In many other parts of northern part of Israel, we found high places and also altars for Baal and Asherah, also in places like near Megiddo. Archaeologists, they discovered the statues of Baal and Asherah.
Okay.
So this, of course, strongly proves that they were worshipped here a lot.
Great. And then one last question. You know, we're talking today about a major showdown between Elijah and the prophets of Baal. Are there any other showdowns that this place is famous for, either in the past or maybe in the future?
In the past, of course. In the past, we know about many battles that took place here. Egyptians, Mesopotamia, Assyrians, Babylonians, just name it. And also modern history. During the time of the First World War, 1917, this place was a bitter battlefield between the British Army under the command of Lord General Allenby to the Ottomans. Here, in this place, Ottomans were defeated. And this is how Allenby opened the way to the west, to Mount Carmel, Haifa, and northern part of the coastline. Wow. So this was a very famous battle. By the way, after that battle, they gave him the title Lord General Allenby from Armageddon, because it happened in a place which is opposite Armageddon, central part of this valley.
Wow. And what about the future?
In the future, Revelation 16:16, my friend, we know that at the end of age, final war, good against evil, will take place right here. Central part of this valley, in front of Armageddon, or as we call it in Hebrew, Har Megiddo, the hill of Megiddo. Absolutely, yes.
Yes. And this is what everybody's talking about today, isn't it? I mean, all eyes are on Israel, are on the Valley of Armageddon and what will happen, when it might happen, all of those kinds of ideas. So, Isaac, thank you so much for sharing with us today.
You're welcome.
One of the things I love about exploring the Promised Land is how not only the past comes alive, but the prophetic future does as well. Standing up high on Mount Carmel, talking to Isaac while overlooking the Valley of Armageddon, I couldn't help but feel closer to both the historical and the future events connected to this significant location. It also made me confident that no matter how unfaithful the people of Israel were to God, He never forgot the everlasting covenant He made with them. There was always a remnant who believed in God and boldly lived their lives in a way that honored and glorified Him. The prophet Elijah was just one example of these faithful children of Israel. His courage and boldness in the face of a terrible king and people who had completely forsaken their calling is an inspiration to all of us. Don't go away. When we come back, we dive deeper into Elijah's showdown here on Mount Carmel and discover profound truths to inspire our hearts today.
The nation of Israel is continuing to defend themselves against a rising tide of terror and anti-Semitism. However, Israel and the Jewish people are not alone. First Century Foundations has been actively supporting the people of Israel for nearly 40 years, providing food, clothing, and shelter for those in need, especially in these desperate times. When you give a gift of $30 or more, you are not only helping support the people of Israel, you are also showing that you care and are blessing God's chosen people in their hour of need. And when you give your gift, as a thank you, you will receive the bi-monthly newsletter and Israel Prayer Watch. And for monthly donations, we will send you the book, Praying for the Peace of Jerusalem. Call now, 1-877-628-2800, or visit us online at firstcenturyfoundations.com and help the people of Israel during these dangerous times.
Visiting Mount Carmel and contemplating the many biblical and historical events that took place here and in the surrounding area is always so inspiring. The showdown that took place here between the prophets of Baal and the prophet Elijah redirected Israel's attention toward their purpose in coming to the Promised Land in the first place. This was the land God gave them so that they could worship the one true God and inspire other nations to do the same. And this story has incredible significance, not just for Israel, but for all of us today.
Among the many stories recorded in the Bible, few confrontations are as dramatic and spiritually significant as the showdown on Mount Carmel between the prophet Elijah and the prophets of Baal under the reign of King Ahab. This event summarizes the struggle between the worship of the one true God and the allure of idolatry. As we dig deeper into this narrative from 1 Kings 18, we uncover profound lessons about the sovereignty of God, the role of the prophets, and the consequences of straying from his commandments. The reign of King Ahab stands as a somber testament to the depths of spiritual degradation to which a nation can descend. In the pages of Israelite history, Ahab's rule is often characterized as the worst, marked by rampant idolatry and moral decay. His marriage to Jezebel, a pagan princess, further entrenched the worship of Baal in Israel, leading to a widespread departure from the worship of Yahweh. His contribution to the demise of the northern kingdom cannot be understated. His tolerance and even promotion of idolatry eroded the spiritual foundation of Israel, leading the people into a state of moral and religious confusion. Under his rule, the prophets of Baal were given free rein, while those who remained faithful to Yahweh faced persecution and even death. Ahab's failure to uphold the covenant with God paved the way for calamity to befall the nation. In the midst of Ahab's apostasy, God raised up prophets like Elijah to proclaim his truth and call the people back to repentance. They served as conduits of God's word, speaking truth to power and challenging the prevailing culture of idol worship. Through their boldness and unwavering faith, they acted as unmistakable signposts, showing the way and guiding the people back to their faith in God. Elijah went to Ahab and told him straight up, "You and your father's family have abandoned the Lord's commands and have led Israel away from God into the idol worship of the Baals. You are what's wrong with Israel." Then Elijah set up a standoff between the God of Israel and the worshipers of Baal that would become one of the most legendary stories in all of Israel. The showdown on Mount Carmel serves as a defining moment in the prophetic ministry of Elijah. In the face of overwhelming odds, he boldly confronted the prophets of Baal, demonstrating the power and supremacy of the one true God. Through his actions, Elijah exemplified the importance of unwavering faith and obedience to God's commands, even in the face of opposition. Listen to the rest of the story in 1 Kings chapter 18, verses 22 to 39. Then Elijah said to them, "I am the only one of the Lord's prophets left, but Baal has 450 prophets. Get 2 bulls for us. Let Baal's prophets choose one for themselves, and let them cut it into pieces and put it on the wood, but not set fire to it. I will prepare the other bull and put it on the wood, but not set fire to it. Then you call on the name of your God, and I will call on the name of the Lord. And the God who answers by fire, he is God." Then all the people said, "What you say is good." Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, "Choose one of the bulls and prepare it first, since there are so many of you. Call on the name of your God, but don't light the fire." So they took the bull given them, and they prepared it. Then they called on the name of Baal from morning till noon. "Baal, answer us," they shouted. But there was no response. No one answered. And they danced around the altar they had made. And at noon Elijah began to taunt them. "Shout louder," he said. "Surely he is a god. Perhaps he is deep in thought or busy or traveling. Maybe he's sleeping and must be awakened." So they shouted louder and slashed themselves with swords and spears, as was their custom, until their blood flowed. Midday passed, and they continued their frantic prophesying until the time for the evening sacrifice. But there was no response. No one answered, and no one paid attention. Let's pause here for a moment, and then we will pick up the story again. I love the taunting here from Elijah, don't you? I mean, it's just dripping with sarcasm. As Elijah listened and watched their fervent theatrics, he became more and more impatient. And he made fun of them, taunting them, saying things like, "Hey, I think maybe your God is asleep, or maybe he's gone on a long trip. Perhaps he's indisposed and relieving himself." That last one is according to the ESV translation. Elijah's taunting motivates these 450 prophets of Baal even more. And all afternoon they chant louder, cutting themselves until they were bleeding profusely. And then the Bible record says these three things. But there was no response, no one answered, and no one paid attention. See, this is what happens when you decide to worship an inanimate object and put an idol above the worship of God. Nothing. It is so pointless. These so-called gods had nothing to offer them, and the idols that we continually put above the worship of God today are exactly the same. They're pointless. The story continues. Then Elijah said to all the people, "Come here to me." And they came to him, and he repaired the altar of the Lord, which had been torn down. Elijah took 12 stones, one for each of the tribes descended from Jacob, to whom the word of the Lord had come, saying, "Your name shall be Israel." And with the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord, and he dug a trench around it large enough to hold 2 seahs of seed. He arranged the wood, cut the bull into pieces, and laid it on the wood. Then he said to them, "Fill 4 large jars with water, and pour it on the offering and on the wood." "Do it again," he said, and they did it again. "Do it a third time," he ordered, and they did it the third time. It says the water ran down around the altar and even filled the trench at the bottom. And at the time of sacrifice, the prophet Elijah stepped forward and prayed, "Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known today that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant, and have done all these things at your command. Answer me, Lord. Answer me so these people will know that you, Lord, are God, and that you are turning their hearts back again." Then the fire of the Lord fell and burned up the sacrifice, the wood, the stones, and the soil, and also licked up the water in the trench. And when all the people saw this, they fell prostrate and cried, "The Lord, He is God. The Lord, He is God." Elijah left no doubt. He had the sacrifice soaked 3 different times with gallons and gallons of water, but not before having a trench dug around the altar so that the water couldn't run away. And then he prayed just a simple prayer, and the God who answered by fire. Not just any fire, but a fire that consumed the sacrifice, the stones, the altar, the dirt around the base of the altar, and even the water itself was licked up. Israel had their answer. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, or Jacob, was the one true, all-powerful, and almighty God. The score was settled. God was proven to be the God who answers prayer and who the nation should follow. I'd like to say that this incident settled things once and for all, but alas, it did not. The northern kingdom of Israel would eventually fall completely in 2 Kings 17, influenced by an evil king who led the people again into idolatry and who did not heed the voice of God or follow in his ways. The epitaph of the northern kingdom was written this way: "Therefore the Lord rejected all the people of Israel. He afflicted them and gave them into the hands of plunderers until he thrust them from his presence." In our own lives as Christians, we're faced with a similar choice: to heed the voice of God and follow his ways, or to listen to the voices all around us in the world and to follow the ways of the world. Hebrews 4:7 reminds us, "Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. Just as the prophets of old called the people of Israel to repentance, so too does God call us to turn away from sin and return to him." In a world filled with distractions and temptations, it is essential that we cultivate a listening ear to discern God's voice amidst the noise. The showdown on Mount Carmel stands as a timeless reminder of the power and the faithfulness of God, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. Through the courage and conviction of prophets like Elijah, we are reminded of the importance of standing firm in our faith and proclaiming God's truth to a world in desperate need of redemption. May we, like Elijah, have the courage to confront the idols of our age and faithfully follow wherever God leads, knowing that his voice alone leads to life and freedom. Thank you for joining me today as we discovered the northern kingdom of Israel and visited this incredible location where Elijah challenged and was victorious over the prophets of Baal. God's purpose for bringing his people into this land was so that only the one true God of Israel would be worshiped here, as a powerful example to the nations of the earth. Please join me again next week as we continue to explore the Promised Land and the incredible purposes God had and still has for bringing his people here.
I was a pastor for over 20 years before I first went to Israel, only to realize that I had been totally disconnected from the roots of my faith. Since then, I've been on a journey of discovery, and my faith has come alive in ways I never could have imagined. I'm Jeff Feuders, Director of First Century Foundations, and I am excited to invite you on my journey to the foundations of our faith, to discover your part in a Bible story that isn't over yet. First Century Foundations exists to reconnect Christians to the foundations of Christianity. And we do this by creating Bible-based media focused on Israel and the Jewish roots of our faith. But we don't just reconnect you to Israel's history, we help you participate in what God is doing in Israel today by connecting you to over 70 incredible ministries in Israel who desperately need our support. Will you partner with us? Together, we'll explore Israel's significant past while doing our part to ensure that Israel has a bright future.